in the year 1957, in the ancient city of Kano, Nigeria, a baby boy was born. His grandfather looked at the child and gave him a name. That name was Aliko. In the language of northern Nigeria, Aliko means one thing: the victorious one who defends humanity. Nobody in that room could have known just how perfectly that name would define this man. Today, Aliko Dangote is the richest black person on earth, the wealthiest man on the entire African continent. His net worth stands at $36.8 billion. As of this week, he is ranked the 65th richest person on the planet. But that number does not tell you the real story. It does not tell you about the 8-year-old boy who taught himself business by selling sweets to his classmates. It does not tell you about the 3 siblings he lost while building his empire. It does not tell you about the powerful man who spent decades trying to stop everything he was building. This is not a story about money. This is a story about one man who decided to build an empire for a continent the world had given up on. Stay with me. Before we talk about the billions, we need to go back, all the way back, because the story of Aliko Dangote did not begin when he was born. It began long before that. His great-grandfather was the wealthiest man in all of West Africa, a trader who built his empire through cola nuts, groundnuts, and commodities across the continent. But here is the part most people never hear. His great-grandfather once lost everything. During a journey through Lagos, thieves took his entire fortune. Everything he had built, gone, in one night. And what did he do? He rebuilt it, from nothing, all the way back to the richest man in West Africa. When young Aliko Dangote was growing up in Kano, he heard this story. He sat with his grandfather and listened to every word. And somewhere inside that young boy, a belief took root, that in this family, we do not stay down. We build, and we keep building, until what we leave behind is greater than anything that came before us. In 1965, Aliko Dangote's father died. Aliko was 8 years old. His grandfather stepped in, became his guardian, his mentor, the man who shaped everything. And his grandfather did not waste a single day. He started teaching immediately. One afternoon, he gave a young boy some pocket money. Most children would have spent it. Aliko did something different. He walked to the market, bought a carton of sweets, and sold each one to his classmates, one by one, at a profit. Then he bought 2 cartons, then 4. His classmates were playing. Aliko was building. Nobody told him to do this. It came from inside him, from generations of traders that ran through his blood. By the time he finished primary school, that young boy already understood something that takes most adults a lifetime to learn. Money is not something you receive. It is something you grow, and he had already started. After secondary school, Aliko Dangote left Nigeria. He traveled to Cairo in Egypt and enrolled at one of the oldest universities in the world. He studied business and administration. He graduated at 21 years old, and then he did something that surprised people. He came straight back home, not to London, not to New York, not to Paris, home to Nigeria, because he had already decided that home was where the real opportunity was. In 1977, at 20 years old, he walked into his uncle's office and asked for a loan, $3,000. His uncle gave it to him. Aliko Dangote walked out of that office with the seed money for what would become the largest private company in the history of Africa. He started simply: sugar, rice, salt, cement, the basic things Nigeria needed every single day. Within 3 months, every dollar of that loan was paid back. 3 months. His uncle barely noticed the money was gone. Before it was already back, the machine had started, and it would never stop. By 1981, the Dangote Group was officially born, and over the next 2 decades, he did something most successful traders never do. He stopped trading and started building. He looked at Nigeria importing sugar from abroad. While Nigeria had the land and the people to produce its own, he built a refinery, became the largest sugar producer in Africa. He looked at Nigeria importing flour and pasta, while Nigerian wheat sat and used in the ground. He built mills, took control from the farm to the shelf. He looked at Nigeria importing cement, while Nigerian earth contained everything needed to make it. He built plants, and he went directly against a powerful French cement company, a company that had dominated African construction for decades. They had money, they had global power, they had the advantage of a European brand, in a continent told to trust foreign products over African ones. But Aliko Dangote had something they did not. He understood Nigeria better than any foreign company ever could. He knew the roads, the ports, the relationships, and he used all of it to build Dangote Cement into the largest cement company in Africa, now operating across 10 countries, supplying 45% of all the cement needed by sub-Saharan Africa. The French company that tried to dominate this continent now competes for second place with a man from Kano. But the biggest battle of his life was not against a French company. It was against something far more powerful and far more dangerous. For decades, Nigeria did something that made no sense to anyone who studied it carefully. Nigeria is one of the largest oil-producing nations on Earth, sitting on billions of barrels of crude oil beneath its ground, an entire nation running on petroleum every single day. And yet, Nigeria imported almost all of its refined fuel from abroad. Every single liter shipped in from foreign countries. Why? Because a small and extremely powerful group of men had built billion-dollar businesses importing petrol into Nigeria. They had government connections, political protection, enormous wealth, and every reason in the world to make sure Nigeria never built its own refinery. Because the day Nigeria refined its own fuel was the day their empire collapsed. In 2013, Aliko Dangote announced he would build a refinery, not a small one, the largest refinery in all of Africa, 650,000 barrels per day, on land he had acquired in Aliko, Lagos. The fuel importers were not pleased, and over the next 10 years, as he poured $20 billion into that project, they made sure he felt exactly how displeased they were. The battles he faced during those 10 years have never been fully told publicly. Delays that should have taken months stretched into years. Obstacles appeared from nowhere. Access to crude oil was made deliberately difficult. The World Bank pushed to keep import licenses alive, to protect the interests of foreign fuel suppliers. But something else was happening during those same 10 years. Something personal, something deeply painful. While Aliko Dangote was fighting to build his refinery, he was losing people he loved. His brother Sani died of cancer. His brother Bello died in a plane crash in 1996. His brother Gabra died of a stroke in 2013, right in the middle of construction. 3 siblings gone while he was still fighting. And every single morning, he woke up and kept building. In 2023, after 10 years of construction, after $20 billion invested, after every battle they could throw at him, the Dangote Refinery opened. Nigeria, for the first time in its modern history, was refining its own oil. The largest oil producer in Africa was finally free from foreign fuel. And the man who made that happen was a boy from Kano, who once sold sweets to his classmates. Today, Aliko Dangote is not slowing down. He is accelerating. His refinery is now running at full capacity, 650,000 barrels every single day. Nigeria has gone from importing almost all its fuel to a country that now exports fuel to other nations, a feat the world said was impossible. He has forced Total Energies, one of the largest oil companies on the planet, into its first net loss in 20 years, simply by competing. His cement company controls 45% of sub-Saharan Africa's market. His fertilizer plant produces 2.8 million tons every year. His Vision 2030 plan commits $21 billion more into energy, infrastructure, and industry. He is now building a new East African refinery. That will do for East Africa what the Lagos refinery did for Nigeria. One man, one lifetime, one continent. And here is what separates Aliko Dangote from every other billionaire story you have ever heard. He did not build his wealth by taking from Africa. He built his wealth by building things Africa needed. Cement for its buildings, sugar for its food, fuel for its vehicles, fertilizer for its farms. Every single dollar he ever made was made by solving a problem that Africa had. That is not just business. That is a different kind of empire entirely. There is one more chapter of this story that the world press almost never mentions. While building his business empire, Aliko Dangote was quietly building something else. In 1994, he established the Aliko Dangote Foundation. Today, it is the largest private foundation in sub-Saharan Africa. It has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into healthcare, education, and economic empowerment across the entire continent. But its single greatest achievement changed African history forever. His foundation partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with one single goal: to completely eradicate wild polio from Africa. In August 2020, Africa was officially declared polio-free, a disease that had paralyzed African children for generations. Wiped out, and a businessman from Kano was one of the central forces that made it happen. This is who Aliko Dangote truly is. Not just a man who made money, a man who remembered exactly where he came from while building where he was going. A man named after a belief his grandfather had before he was even born. The victorious one who defends humanity. 69 years, and every single one of them has proved that name right. If this video reached you today, share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Because Africa's greatest stories deserve to be told, and the men and women building this continent deserve to be known. Welcome to Empire Africa. Subscribe, because this is only the beginning.